Wow, now that is pretty darn amazing. Well, the package said it was 3 kilos. I highly doubt that. ComMarker reached out to me and asked if I wanted to take a look at their new Omni X. It's a UV laser and it does something quite special. And currently it retails for $4,599. Now let's go over some of the features. This is a 5-watt, 355 nanometer UV laser. It has ZeroBurn engraving. It can also do 3D internal engraving, which is also known as subsurface or bubblegram. It has 16K HD at 0.0019 millimeter accuracy. It has autofocus with LiDAR ranging system. It's fully enclosed with a smart cover sensor. It has a max speed of 10,000 millimeters per second. It has optional accessories like a slide extension and rotary, and works with ComMarker Studio and or LightBurn. This box is well packed. It has several of these crystals. I think there's a total of 5 of them. And would you look at there, a foot switch. It's like ComMarker knows me. And true to ComMarker, every box is well labeled. Like right here we have a lifting table, an additional field lens, an exhaust fan, another crystal, yes, and a handle, and a ruler, and another crystal. And we got a power cord. And in case you missed it during the unboxing, there is also certified safety goggles. Yes, we will have to actually assemble this. The base has all these ports on it: lift motor, extension, rotary, safety door, light, cooling fan, exhaust fan, and pedal, data, and power. Let's start with the base. It is secured with just 4 screws. Installing the laser head bracket only takes 4 screws as well. Laser source takes 4 screws. Attach the plugs for the power supply, digital power, external, and this little round cable. Then don't forget to attach the power lift cable. Now we're going to put the enclosure on, and this takes an assortment of screws. Yes, 4 here, and then another 4 on the other side. And go ahead and feed the wires through the back. Now let's attach the cooling fan, the lift motor, the safety door, and we're going to also plug in our light and screw that in. Now we're going to screw in the exhaust fan on the back. Then plug in and screw in the exhaust fan, the data cable, and the power. Yeah, per the instructions, attach these grab handles to the enclosure before you attach it to the base. Next, let's remove the plastic film on both sides of the see-through enclosure here. And the handle is just attached with 2 screws. Now we're going to attach the safety shield to the enclosure, and this takes 4 screws, 2 on each side. And once fully assembled, this weighs about 90 pounds. However, I want to personally thank ComMarker for giving me this custom apron, ComMarker Plus Tripods Garage. And I'd like to introduce today's video sponsor, which is PCBWay. Are you looking for a PCB manufacturer? Are you looking for rigid, flexible PCBs? Are you looking for them to assemble them for you? Well, they can. And they also offer other services such as 3D printing, injected molding, and CNC. Heck, they even have a community section where you could buy a project and assemble it on your own. If you're looking for any of these services, please reach out to PCBWay. And I hate to say it, but we are not going to use LightBurn. And you know why? That's because ComMarker developed their own software. It has a whole material library in here, and it's very simple to use. So every project that you see that I do here was done with default settings, unless I actually state it, and I'll show you the settings that I use. Now, since this is a UV laser, and it's going to be really hard for you to see the outline, so this is what you use this little paddle for. So you actually see the outline before you engrave. Now, when you're dealing with natural materials, there could be some inconsistencies with the laser engraving. As you can see, there's some dark spots and some lighter spots, and that's to be expected. And I would suggest doing some more passes But overall, everything did come out really nice. The engraving is very crisp, but I would have done maybe 2 on this one. Now for this wood logo, I decided to do 3 passes. I wanted to see how nice this ZeroBurn technology worked. Now the UV technology is just very interesting. You're not going to get any scorch marks on here. So if you're looking for like different, tones for like burning, you're just not going to get it. But man, that actually came out really sharp. You can see how nice and embossed it is. Now let's continue on. Next, we're doing a stainless steel dog tag, and this is in real time, and I decided to do 2 passes on it. Yes, the ComMarker Studio software is able to do QR codes as well. Using the reflective stainless steel settings with the ComMarker Studio, it came out really nice, and you can actually feel the engraving. Next, I really wanted to test out the fine details. ComMarker says that this could achieve 16K accuracy. So let's engrave a business card. Would you look at that? Now, I can really say that this is not as clean of an image as it really could be, but wow, this is pretty darn remarkable. I mean, look how nice and legible it is. I mean, this is really, really close up here. Sorry about the autofocus, but I am very, very impressed with the engraving quality of this. So yes, you can get really, really fine detail with this laser engraver. Now, engraving glass, wow, a UV laser is your best friend. With the regular diode laser, you have to use an interface layer, and this just does it. Now, I did this with 2 passes. I created this file, and this is just a regular shot glass. The passes is up to you. Now you could just do 1 pass, but I wanted to really feel the engraving, so I went with 2. And for smaller wording, I went with the 0.001 because I noticed that the S for September may have just overlapped a little bit. Now, you're going to be hard-pressed to find anything that could engrave glass this crisp. I mean, look how nice this came out. It just looks really, really nice. And the S in September, you can actually see the little line there in the S. Very accurate, very nicely done. And you can feel the engraving. Again, I did 2 passes. And you could just make some pretty good money cranking these out. And then if you want, you could get these cheap little coasters here off of Amazon. I'll put a link down below. And you could just light up these glasses on the tables. I do sell quite a number of these, so it's a nice little profit too. Let's continue on to the next project. And ComMarker also has in their ComMarker suite a plastic setting, and this is good for white and black plastics. At least those are the 2 that I tried. And the white plastics, this is a knockoff air pods that stopped working just a few months afterwards, and just get the real deal. But use the force. That was real time. So think about how much money you can make, personalize just adapters and cases and stuff. Now let's go ahead and try black. Now with plastics, you gotta be careful. Always use a ventilated area, exhaust out or through a purifier because they can be toxic. Now this is the same plastic settings that I did on the white. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, you can change the colors and it's permanent. Now let's try leather patches. Now I did make a mistake here because you'll see that the leather is curved a little bit on the edges, and you want to try to make your material as flat as possible because the curve can make the laser out of focus and not engrave entirely even. But overall, the image did come out really nice and quick. Now ComMarker sent me a leaf to engrave, but there was no settings, so I was able to add one myself, and these are my settings. Now, how often are you going to engrave plant leaves? I have no clue, but it really is pretty cool here to see that you could actually engrave a plant leaf and there's no scorch marks on it whatsoever. But now let's go on to something a little bit more exciting than a leaf. It's called subsurface engraving. Also could be called a bubblegram. One of the first videos I ever watched about bubblegrams or subsurface engravings was done by Maker's Muse, Angus. I really wanted to know if I was able to do it at home. And this video is over 7 years old and it's got 1.6 million views. And for a good reason. It's a very well done video. And I was just very curious to see if I could do any of the subsurface laser engraving with any of the lasers I have at home. I mean, I have fiber laser, diode lasers, CO2 lasers, and a UV laser. But still, none of those machines actually would engrave subsurface. And it goes through the machines and also the materials that the subsurface engraving is actually engraved in. So it's definitely worth the watch. And again, I'll pin the video down below so that way you get a better understanding of this subsurface engraving. Now, what files can be used for subsurface engraving? And that would be called STL files. STL files are mainly used in the 3D printing space. There are plenty of sites that actually host these files, but you better check the license agreement because most of them will not allow you to sell the files. You may want to join a Patreon for something like that. You're going to go ahead and click on the 3D glass feature on ComMarker Studio, and then you're going to actually import your STL file. You want to make sure that it actually fits within the cube that's outlined here. And most of the time you're going to just need to resize it. And you'll want to leave a gap on the bottom and the top, and also make sure it doesn't exceed any of the limitations. You want to make sure that the focus is actually on the plate itself, and then you want to make sure that you are centered. That way everything is all aligned for it. Now there's not much room to see your outline, so try to use your best judgment for this. And then we're going to close it, and then we're going to click on Start. And we're off to the races. Now this took about an hour to complete. And the way this works is that the focus point is where the engraving is happening. And then your Z is actually moving up, keeping it in focus as it's lasering. And you get to see every line being done one at a time. It's pretty cool to watch. I mean, I was just watching the whole process. I stared at it for an hour. Yeah, I'm a geek, but it was just so fascinating to watch. I've been wanting to do this at home for years, and now I am given the option to actually do it. And it's just so satisfying to watch this. I could literally watch them all the time. And again, it took about an hour to do this, and you can buy these crystals online. And this is a 50 by 50 by 100 millimeter. Okay, let's go ahead and take it out. I'm actually wearing gloves on this because I just want to reduce the fingerprints, but yeah, this Star Destroyer just came out really nice. And it wasn't really a high detailed model. And yeah, of course you could go with higher detail, but you're not going to really get as much because, you know, you're shrinking it down anyways, and you're getting dots, you're not getting lines. But it is so cool to see how three-dimensional this is in here. It's just engraved in the middle of a glass. I mean, it just looks like it's floating. I mean, you may have seen like pictures of people's heads and stuff. You would have to have a 3D scanner or something to do something like that, but so far this is pretty darn cool. Well, we did Star Wars, but let's do the real deal here. Let's do Star Trek, shall we? Now, of course, I found the Enterprise refit on Thingiverse, and again, this license says I can't sell. So you want to make sure that if you are looking to sell these, you have to find someone that allows you to. And that means most of the time that you want to maybe join someone's Patreon or find a website that hosts these files that actually dedicate those files to sell. Now you can reach out to the artist separately to see if they will allow you to make some type of arrangement to sell, but it's just easier to go ahead and find the artist and just go join their Patreon, because then you really have the correct licensing to sell these products. You don't want to be caught selling files that you're not supposed to, and plus it does not make good business sense. Now I'm not selling these, I'm actually going to keep them, and I really enjoy starships, whether it's from Star Wars or Star Trek. I think it's really darn cool looking. And this came out really nice as well. The details are pretty darn amazing. I mean, I am zoomed in on here, so you're going to see some of the dots, laser dots here, but it's just kind of amazing to see the model just floating right in the middle of this glass. And the saucer section, since it's more compact, there's less error in between, so to speak, it's a little bit darker, and that's to be expected with the mesh. But as soon as I turn it over, the top or bottom, it doesn't look as dark because it's more spread out. But I didn't really center it all that well. And let's go ahead and see what we can do to kind of fix that to make everything line up a little bit easier. Now the laser does come with two different lenses, and I'm keeping the 70mm in here for everything. So I have to use this rising table. First thing I did was engrave this 70mm square, and now I'm doing a 50mm square. That way I can do my laser outline on there and then place my glass right inside that square. Now I'm aligned. I did my focus height based off the table, and I just made sure the model was within the cube of the software, and everything just now lined up perfectly. Now what I'd like to do in the future is actually create some 3D printed jigs, so I don't have to rely on my little jury-rigged base there. But for using what I have available right then and there, I came up with a pretty easy solution just to make sure that I can now get my models centered within the glass. And this is now perfectly centered, and this is actually one of my favorite enterprises. This is the Enterprise E, I believe, from First Contact. Was the first time that this ship was introduced when they were fighting the Borg. Yeah, I really like this ship. I found this ship on printables, and the detail is rather striking. And I can't emphasize it enough that this is not resellable. You have to find an artist that you can actually resell their files. But to make this a little bit more interesting, you can actually go ahead and use LEDs underneath to have it glow. So I'm using those little coasters that I found just for a demonstration here of how you could light up your models just with simple LEDs. Again, these are little coasters. You could buy them in like a 20, 30, 100 pack, and they're pretty darn cheap. But you don't want to keep on using them because they run off of batteries. Try to find ones that actually plug in. Now I did try 3D relief engraving, and yeah, I was not a fan of it. And I kind of stopped within about 30 minutes because this was the results of doing it. Now what I really found intriguing was this. Look at that. That is actually the material from a laser. Yeah, a laser. It's almost like this is like a CNC machine of sawdust. I just simply cannot believe that a laser is doing this to this wood. But we have a mess to clean up. And this is just a suggestion. First, I use a vacuum and I vacuum up what I can. And this could be like from a shop vac or something, but you know, don't get too aggressive. You're just trying to remove as much material as possible. And I have this little leaf blower thing, and I'm just blowing the rest of the dust out. You know, if you have an air compressor, you can do the same thing. Just don't try to concentrate it in one spot too heavily. And that way you could just try to remove the material that you see. It's good to clean out the fan with it too. Next, I'm just going to grab some regular Swiffers. I'm not going to use any chemicals or, you know, spray away glass cleaner or and paper towels. You don't want anything wet to be in here. Just go ahead and use Swiffers. It works really well. Next, I'm going to grab one of these Swiffer wands, or whatever you want to call it, dusters. And I'm going to go in between the shield and the laser. This is normally a pretty hard area to reach, and I really thought of this thing first, believe it or not. And one thing that's really good about these, they don't really scratch any of the surfaces because you barely have to apply any pressure to get the dust off. You'll notice I'm leaving the shield up to get around the top here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the height of the laser here so I can get the top of the laser module itself. And you just want to try to get into every nook and cranny that you can. And this is mostly like scheduled maintenance. Again, you don't have to follow my cleaning procedures. I would just stay away from glass cleaners. And there we go, all cleaned up. Definitely pretty simple. I would say it took me less than 5 minutes to actually clean the machine. Most of that, what you saw, was real time. So again, you want to just take care of your machines. So what are my overall impressions of the ComMarker Omni X? Basically anything that I wanted to engrave, I was able to engrave, and it worked great with the ComMarker Studio software. And with the ComMarker Studio software, basically it had all the materials that I was engraving already had the settings in it, so there was almost no guesswork. I really like the autofocus and that the machine is fully enclosed. I also like that the laser comes with 2 different lenses. Now I did stick with the 70mm lens because that is what is required for the 3D glass engraving, the subsurface engraving. So I really just kept it on because I really wanted to use that feature. And speaking about subsurface engraving, that is just an amazing feature and something I was looking forward to be able to do at home. And it worked extremely well. Now, what's some of the negatives? First off, I would have to say the ventilation. It could be better because when I started doing the 3D relief engraving, you saw what happened. Now I was using an exhaust purifying system, so it did add a little bit more oomph to the exhaust, but since the exhaust is square, I actually had to wrap some tape around the hose. And this is really no fault of the system itself, but this the UV laser is that trying to see your perimeters for the laser is pretty hard, and you have to use that filter to actually see it. And also because of the enclosure, you have to try to work around that, and sometimes it gets really hard to see from different angles if you're spot on or not. Now, this is more of an industrial machine, and it is quite loud. You have a lot of fans, and don't expect it to be in a quiet environment. And try to find a permanent home because this weighs about 100 pounds, so it's not portable by any means. But overall, my user experience was very positive. I liked the software, and the functionality is just absolutely amazing. So hopefully I provided enough information to see if this machine is right for you. And there will be affiliate links down below that help support the channel and does not cost you anything extra. So I really appreciate you tuning in to Tripod's Garage. Please have a wonderful day, evening, or weekend, or whenever you decide to watch this video. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you again on Tripod's Garage.